written in the stars? Well, scientists will tell you that mutations in viruses are common. It's the pace and rate of the mutations that could worry. But all of this just caused panic across global markets. We saw that in the opening in the US markets, European markets, of course, taking a hard knock, as did Dalal Street, as panic sort of spread. Of course, the drop in Indian markets was pulled back to some extent when news came of a stimulus package finally getting the green signal in the United States. But overall, the Nifty down about 400 points, the lowest point since the month of May. The Sensex too took a knock of nearly 1,800 points. Here's Managing Editor of ET Now, Nikunj, breaking down all the market action for you.
Overbought market was looking for reasons to correct, and today this market got handful of reasons. Markets as it is were looking slightly stretched and extended in the month of December because markets were only riding just one thing, which is global liquidity. And today global liquidity has got challenged. Why global liquidity has got challenged? Of course, it's the news on the medical front. The fact that there's a medical emergency in United Kingdom. This is something which in a sense really rattled the European markets and which really led to some kind of a selling stampede on Dalal Street. Also, for next 8-10 days when trading volumes are going to be thin, a little bit of selling also today is having a very large impact on the mid and the small cap stocks. The challenge is that as we roll over from 2020 to 2021, there is still no clarity on Brexit, and Europe has not even started the vaccination program. So somewhere markets know that for next 2 or 3 weeks, the news on the medical front, if at all, is not likely to improve, something which global financial markets were not really prepared for, because when the vaccine news came, everyone in the financial markets thought that we won the war against Corona. So things will get better, but before they will get better, looks like it will get worse. Now from a market, it's very difficult to predict what will happen in the near term. Why? Because you've got holiday this week, and then the last week where historically trading is not very high. So difficult to call out what will happen to markets from here till December. But come Jan, I think we should look forward to flows again, because as the year will change, allocations are likely to improve. But for the day, it was a terrible, it was a horrible, and it was a really poor day of trade.
All right, let's just take a quick look at what's happening in the US markets before we go ahead. And it's sort of a mixed bag of news for the US markets. Global markets all around and all asset classes have been spooked by the news of this virus mutation, and that's being seen in the US markets as well. But some sort of a balancing factor after a stimulus package has finally been pushed through. So the Dow Jones down about 350 points as we speak, about 1% The Nasdaq down about 1.6% at 205 points in the red. So it's hurting there as well. Arnab Das and Geoff Dennis are joining us on the show now just to give a perspective of how market watchers are seeing the next few days unfold. Welcome to the show. Great to have you. Hope everyone's safe. Arnab, let me begin by getting your perspective. Do you think these new strain fears will persist? By all reports so far, the problem is that it increases the rate of transmission. The deadliness or its impact or its effects are not supposed to be any worse than what we knew so far. Do you think that this fear will sort of peter out over the next few days?
I don't know if it'll peter out over the next few days. I think what it means is that since, as you say, the transmission rate and the reproductive rate are higher, it's going to be a tougher challenge to get the reproductive rate below 1, right, which is the rate at which the virus starts to dissipate. So that, I think, in turn implies two things. One, for the short term, that we have to have more intense of a lockdown than we had anticipated, which is where we are now in the UK and with the travel restrictions that are coming out in the news. And two, I think it suggests that the spread or the coverage of the vaccine that would be used, assuming that the vaccine continues to be effective against this new strain, which is what the official view is at the moment. If the transmission rate is higher, that means the vaccine for any given reproductive rate, right? The vaccine coverage for any higher reproductive rate, vaccine coverage has to be higher. So that increases the onus on that aspect of the public health response here, right? So more lockdowns in the short term and a stronger vaccination effort, particularly with the double shot versions of the vaccine, that's going to require a bit more logistical effort, right? So that process has already begun in the UK, but it's only just getting started, and it's going to have to go further. And I suppose there is a risk, of course, that the virus, the new strain of the virus, has already been transmitted into continental Europe and other parts of the world when travel was more open with the UK. So this may not be just a problem on this particular island, right? It might be a more general problem as well. So, but having said that, right, we have these near-term challenges, as what's just said.
Question,
right?
and of course, that's a larger one that we will just.
Sorry, I was just going to say that it makes it, this amplifies the point that was just being made.
That's okay,
earlier
Arnab, completely.
That, thank you. That the near term is somewhat more challenging, but we still have the long-term expectation now of the virus being dealt with properly through a vaccine. So I think it's just a bit more of a delay, and so the correspondingly the danger in this is that if this delay lasts a little while longer, maybe a month, maybe 2 months longer, that there's more permanent economic damage, and that of course speaks to the increased need for more monetary stimulus, or more extended monetary stimulus at least, and more fiscal stimulus. And I think we're already moving in that direction in the U.S. We probably will need to move in that direction in the UK and continental Europe as well.
Absolutely. I was making the point that one wonders if we've learned our lessons correctly. This new strain of virus was spotted quite a few months ago now in the UK. It has rapidly been identified as the new cases, and most of the cases in many parts of the UK, but action on stopping flights, etc., has been fairly new. The world seems to have woken up to this fairly recently. Geoff, how do you look at this situation? Do you think that the biggest concern is that all the good news that was coming in from the vaccines being rolled out quickly, and that hope that economic activity would be restored quickly, is now taking a backseat because of this news of a new strain that could be transmitted even faster?
We just don't know. I think the way to look at it is to say that there were plenty of reasons for the markets to take some excuse to take some profits, given the strong run that we had. And obviously, this new strain that's been reported in the UK gives you a perfect reason to do that. Now, as the other speaker said, I think what's absolutely key about this new strain is going to be, do the existing vaccines, which have been developed in record time, are they able to deal with the new with the new strain or not? Because if they're not, or there's some setback in the ability to control the virus because of a secondary strain here, that's when that will create the problems for the world economy and the problems, of course, for the financial markets. And we just don't know that. But the fact that this strain has suddenly become a big issue in the UK, where I'm based in the US, as you know, so I can't say this firsthand. But obviously, coronavirus is running rampant inside the UK. And if this is a new strain, that obviously gives markets, as I say, a perfect excuse to take some profits here. We need to see how this develops over the next few weeks. We need to see how effective the existing vaccines will be on the new strain. And then it'll be back to the usual things of watching how rapidly the global economy recovers. So I see a short-term pause here in markets. I see a flight to quality, which is what you're having today in emerging markets in particular. Europe's getting badly hit as well. We just don't know how deep and severe this second strain will be, and we just have to wait to see what impact the vaccines have on it.
Geoff, the big event that everyone was waiting for weeks now, months, I would say, has finally happened. A stimulus package has been cleared by lawmakers, by Congress in the United States. Do you think that positive action will now continue to play out, or is being tamped down to some extent because of this new strain?
Definitely the latter, and also it's often the case when you have the anticipation of one of these packages or some sort of event that's been anticipated for a long time beforehand, that because I think, and I've said this on this channel many times, I expected there to be some sort of a deal, and now it's finally happened. I think there's some sort of sense of, you sell the news, because if you look at the packet, if you look at the situation vis-a-vis the fiscal package, there are two things to make, to comment on, in my view. Number one, all the measures that have been put in place again are again short term. They're going to run out again at some point, generally in the first half of next year. And the other point to make is that the next go around, if you like, and trying to provide some fiscal stimulus for the US economy will be under the new Biden administration. And on the assumption that the Republicans hold one or both of the Georgia special election seats, it's going to be even harder in the new Congress to get another package through. So I think this is a short-term palliative. It's very welcome. I think we all knew it was going to happen. It's just an excuse to take profits. Now we have to see what happens into the new year.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Arnab Das and Geoff Dennis, for speaking with us and giving us a quick perspective of how markets are looking at these developments and how they possibly will over the next few days.